Welcome to RAIN, the Real Estate Investor Growth Network with your hostess, Jen Josie. Join like-minded real estate investors and accelerate your business towards greatness. You will hear step-by-step strategies for success, interviews with real estate rock stars, and we will dig deep into past projects where we bear it all, including the good, the bad, and some just plain ugly. So get excited. Here's the bestower of badassery herself, the real Jen Josie. Listener discretion is advised.
Hi, and welcome back. I'm Jen Josie, creator of RAIN, the Real Estate Investor Growth Network. Whoop, whoop. On today's episode, we have a guest that will be sharing their badassery. But before we begin, here's today's badassery bestowment, my little badass gift to you. Today's topic is the importance of lien waivers. A few years ago, our regular window guy was not available for a project, so we went with a random contractor. The contractor demanded a deposit up front for materials. I asked if we could pay the window supply company directly, and he swore he would get a much better discount if the payment went through him. Against my better judgment, I paid the deposit. The windows arrived a few weeks later, were installed, and before I gave him his final payment, I had him sign a lien waiver. Several months later, we were served papers from an attorney representing that window company. I had never been sued before, so once I caught my breath, I asked the attorney if they would like a copy of the lien waiver that contractor signed. It clearly stated all labor and materials were paid in full. The attorney said that's all they needed and to have a great day. Whew, that little piece of paper protected our profits from that dishonest contractor. The moral of the story is whenever you pay someone involved in your project, make sure you have them sign the waiver before you hand over payment. So embrace the power of lien waivers and may the profits be forever in your favor. Now on to today's episode of the Real Estate Investor Growth Network podcast. We have with us my new friend, Kevin Shortle. Kevin began his real estate career in 1985. That means he's older than me. And a commercial real estate appraiser. Through the use of partners and mentors, he is involved in both the real property side and the paper side of real estate investing. Kevin has purchased, renovated, and resold over 150 properties and transacted over 30 million in private note sales. It is my pleasure to have him on the show. So welcome, Kevin.
Hey, thank you very much. Appreciate it. And that's a great tip, by the way, that you were sharing with everybody. So many people don't know that. And sometimes it's the seemingly little things that come back to bite you later on. But that is a great tip. I learned that one the hard way. And that's the way you don't want to learn it. But once you do, you never forget it. Yeah.
It scared me to death because I had never been sued before. I was like, what is this? And then I was like, I have this lien waiver. Does this work? They're like, yep, thank you. Have a great day. I was like, whew. So
absolutely.
Very good point. Anyway, so I am thrilled to have you on the show. We are going to be talking about notes today for the most part. And I don't know anything about buying notes. And I love a lot of the stuff I've been reading about you, and you have a book called Real Estate Without Renters. And I'm like,
Right.
So I can't wait to dive into this. I'm at a point in my real estate career where I am tired of babysitting contractors. I'm sure you've never been through this. I'm a former middle school teacher. And so I was like, yay, my babysitting days are over. And in comes contractors. So I was super excited about it. So just tell me, just break it right now. If I start investing in notes, do I have to deal with contractors anymore?
Not at all.
Kevin, all right. You need to really dumb this down for me and tell us what exactly is a note.
Yeah, and that's a good place to start, right? Because everybody refers to this as the note business. And I've been in this about 30 years. And going back 30 years ago, there was always real estate in this note thing. It was just kind of like this foreign thing. And really all it is the financing side of real estate. So to break it down real simple, what is a note? We deal in notes every single day. And you may not know it. For example, just writing a check to somebody. That's a note. It's a promissory note. They're taking that promise from you that's in writing, and they're going to go cash it. Now that note could become non-performing, couldn't it? Right? Where somebody breaks their promise because they don't have the money in the bank, sort of thing.
Yes.
So a regular note is simply an IOU. It's a promise to pay somebody back, typically with an interest rate and a time frame. That's all a note is. Very simple. We deal with them all of the time. A real estate note, some people call a mortgage note, is a note that is secured by the property itself. Okay. So, for example, if you go to a bank and you want to get a loan to buy a piece of real estate, number one, you have to promise to pay it back, and you have to do that in writing. That's a promissory note. Perfect. And it says, here's how much you're borrowing. Here's what your payments are. Here's the interest rate, time frame, et cetera. We all got that. But banks are smart enough to go, we're not going to take your promise alone. Even if it's a guarantee in writing, you're going to pay us back on this IOU, not good enough. You have to pledge something of collateral value. And of course, in a mortgage, that collateral's the property,
right?
Whether that's a home, land, whatever, it doesn't matter. So that's the collateral. And that documents the mortgage. And the mortgage essentially says, if I don't pay the lender back, according to the note, they have the right to take the property. That's it. So when we say I'm in the note business or you're a note investor, you're really not just ever buying a note. You're buying a secured note. So it's a note and a mortgage, two different documents that work together. That's what makes it secured.
That's where I was confused. I thought the mortgage was the note.
Right. A lot of people do. And they're two distinct things. Now, the mortgage will refer typically to the note, but it's not required to even tell the terms of the note. Sometimes they just say the payments according to the note. Well, where's the note? So the note's actually a separate document. And another reason, which is kind of an oddity for most real estate investors, with access to the internet today, you can get online and go to county courthouses and find the deed. You can find the mortgage. Guess what you can never find? The note. Why can't you find the note? The note portion is considered personal property, not real property.
Okay.
So the mortgage is the one that attaches the note to the property itself. So they are two different items. Yeah.
So a normal homeowner, they have a mortgage and it's owned, I guess, by Bank of America. Is that the right way to say it? Or the Bank of America? Okay. So what's the note involved in that with just a regular homeowner?
Yeah, remember when you sit at the table, everybody, it's a real estate transaction, and you sit there and you sign document after document after document.
Your hands cramped up for 3 days, yes.
And you really have no idea what you're signing. You didn't read every document. One of those was a note, I guarantee you. So the note is your promise to pay back in writing, and that breaks down the terms of the loan, and then it's secured by the mortgage. So even though they're two distinct things, they work together. Okay. So when we buy these, we're buying one unit, but there's two parts to it that we need to see. Okay.
Mm-hmm. And the reason I'm asking this is because I have had, before I even got into real estate investing, I had a townhome and it had a mortgage. And then all of a sudden I realized, the payments are going someplace different. Is that because someone bought that note?
Right, exactly.
Kevin, we're done. Yes. Have a great day. That's all I needed to know.
You got what we call in the industry a hello goodbye letter. You don't make your payments to Bank of America anymore. You pay them to Wells Fargo.
Got it. It could be a much smaller person.
Sure.
Some random.
It could be. It could be. Let's say I sell a house to you, but I finance it for you. Okay, so you're making monthly mortgage payments to me. I'm the note owner. And as the note owner, it's in my right, and it's in the documentation, that I can sell that note to somebody else. Now, what does that note represent? It represents the remaining payments that you owe me over time and the interest rate. So I'm selling that to somebody else. You don't have any say whether they can do that or not because you're unaffected. All you're affected is where to send your check.
Right.
We don't send checks anymore today, but you know what I mean.
And I have no say in it.
No, because it doesn't affect the terms of that loan.
Got it.
Now, the new buyer can't come in. So I have the note and I sell it over here to John Smith. John Smith can't go, hey, Jen, I own this note now. And I'm going to bump your payments up.
Right.
because I need a higher return. They can't do that. They're buying the terms of that note as is.
Huge. Thank you for clarifying that, because that really was my biggest concern. So when I'm buying real estate, all right, so what I know about real estate investing is I find a property, distressed property under market value. I get a hard money loan. I get maybe a private money loan in second position, and I buy the property. Can you do stuff like that with notes, or do you have to pay outright for it? Can you finance them is my question.
Okay. So the note business, just to back it up a little bit, to keep it simple, again, you've got the real property side of the business that people understand, buying the bricks and mortar, that sort of thing.
So it is real property in your intro. I was like, I think this is written incorrectly, but I thought you left out the word real estate.
No, okay. Well, here's the definition too. So I'm a truist sometimes when it comes down to definitions. Everybody calls themselves a real estate investor. You're not a real estate investor. You're really a real property investor. And here's why. Real property.
Thank you.
Real property by definition includes the land, the dirt, the earth, okay, and any man-made improvement. That's the real estate portion of real property. But real property includes the so-called bundle of rights. That's your entitlements. And that's what's important. So, for example, if I go, Jen, I own this building over here, free and clear, and I like you so much, I'm going to grant you that building. It's yours. However, you can never see it. You can never rent it. You can never borrow against it. You can't pledge it as collateral. Congratulations. You own real estate, but you don't have any rights, the bundle of rights. So real property, by definition, is the real estate, the land, the improvement, and the bundle of rights. Now, bundle of rights can be taken away, right? If you buy a piece of property and they discover oil under it, diamonds. Do you own that?
No.
Maybe.
Oh,
it
okay.
depends. Do you have the subsurface rights? Or if you're in Oklahoma or something like that, Texaco could have bought all of the oil rights at some point in time from a previous owner. And they own anything that's found there. Air rights is a big business in New York. You may not own the air above your building. So there's all kinds of things like that. So by definition, we're really real property investors, not just real estate. Probably too technical, but there you go. That's why
I love geeking out over this. Because I was like, no, you don't own those diamonds. I'm like, yes, I do own the diamonds. All right.
Well, in the mortgage business, in the note business, what do people say when they want to borrow money from a bank to buy? They have to what? I have to go get a mortgage. No, you don't get a mortgage from a bank. What you're getting is money. To get money, you have to give a mortgage to the bank. You have to give a note to the bank.
So good.
Yeah, and that's why people just, they hear it so often. Get a bank, you're getting a loan. You're not getting a mortgage.
Gosh, I say that.
Pledging your property as collateral. Yeah.
You are so smart, Kevin. By the way, my dog's name is Kevin.
Is it really?
So I will never forget your name. But let's go back to my original question. How do you finance buying? Do you buy a note? Okay. Is that what you do?
So what we do is everybody understands giving a loan to somebody.
Okay.
Now, technically, that's a note as well. You're creating a note, right? So creating a note is a part of the note business. Now, what we focus on predominantly in this industry is buying notes that were already created by somebody else.
Okay.
So when somebody else creates a note, as an investor, you start to look at, did they create it the right way? What is the down payment? What's it backed by? Is it papered up the right way? Did they record the document the right way? Did they ever modify this loan? If they sold the loan before, did they do an assignment? Did they do an allonge? So I know I'm throwing a lot in there, but what I'm saying is you find the note and you start to go through and, in a way, re-engineer what did they create so you can put a value on it. Okay. So think of it this way. Most of your real estate investors that are listening to this, when you go and look to buy a piece of property, okay, let's say a single family home, as an investor, you're looking for a discount, aren't you? You don't want to pay fair market value. Where's your profit, right? You're typically looking for a home that's undervalued, either because it's not in the greatest condition or you have a motivated seller, some combination thereof. So you buy typically a broken home, if you will. It needs to be fixed up. That's your discount. Okay. In the note business, we can buy non-performing notes, for example. Okay. Non-performing notes means it's pretty obvious. The borrower's not making the payments. Now, you know that going in, but you're getting a deep discount on that. And what do? Just like you would as a real estate investor, I'll still use that terminology for everybody's sake. If you're a real estate investor, aren't you looking at that property and saying, what's it going to cost me to fix it up? What's it going to cost me in time and money to fix this up? And after I fix it up, how much have I increased the value? Right? That's logically what you do. In the note business, if I'm buying a non-performing note, what's it going to cost me in time and money to fix that? Am I going to be able to get that loan working again? But the discount comes into play. So imagine this, everybody. I'll use nice round numbers. Everybody can add a zero, subtract a zero, whatever works in your area. $100,000 home. Somebody owes $90,000 on it. They ran into financial trouble, and now that loan is for sale. I might buy that note for $40,000. It's non-performing. Now, $40,000 is backed by what? A $100,000 home. If I can't get that loan working again, ultimately I'll end up with what? A $100,000 home that I paid $40,000 for. Okay. Is that my worst scenario? Yeah. So worst case scenario is I end up with the property. If there's a borrower in there, I want to work with that borrower to get that loan performing again, because the balance on the loan is $90,000. I'm only in it for $50,000. So I've got room in there where I can stretch out a loan, adjust payments, do a temporary modification, do what they call a forbearance, which is forget about this debt. I'll move it to the back of the loan for now. I can do those things because their payments are based upon a $90,000 loan that I've only paid $50,000 for.
And you can't adjust their payments. You can't make them pay more, though.
Well, once it goes non-performing and I'm reaching out to them to modify the loan, we can then modify the loan as long as both parties agree.
Okay.
So they would have to agree to any modification. But in a case like that, what I'm probably going to do is forgive some debt, because potentially if I had to make this work and get them, could I make the loan $80,000 instead of $90,000? I'm only in it for $50,000.
Right.
Could I charge them a $5,000 reinstatement fee and I'll discount it by $10,000 on the, so I've got room in there to do so much to help them, because a part of this business is absolutely helping people stay in their homes. So there's problem solving on that end. We also buy performing loans though. Okay. So I was looking at, I do one-on-one training, mentoring with clients. And I had one, I think it was yesterday morning, we looked at a beautiful note. The house is worth $200,000. And we went on a couple other websites that you all are familiar with, Zillow and Realtor.com and Redfin and things. So just ballparking it, but it had a tight grouping. All of them were like 190,000, 210, 200, you don't see that often. So we knew the property value was probably there. These people have been in the house for, I think, since 2005, if memory serves correct. Wow. And the loan got readjusted over time, but all they owed was about $30,000 on the loan. Now you're going to buy $30,000 and they're paying and they're motivated to pay. They've got a ton of equity in that house. They only owe the remaining $25,000 or 25, 30, somewhere in there. We'll say $30,000 that they owe on that. And the person who owns the note has owned that note a long time. They've made a lot of money on it, and they're simply cashing out on the end of the note, and they're going to recapitalize, invest in something else. So it's a perfect note for my beginner client here. Their first note, imagining we'll still buy that at a discount. So if they owe 30 on a performer, maybe we get that for 25,000. And his return would be, in that case, I think it was 10.5%. So think about that. Where else could you invest 25,000, 10.5 secured by something that's worth 200,000?
Where does the 10.5% come from?
Okay, interesting, because the borrower in that case is paying 8% interest. Okay, that's the interest rate that they're paying, their coupon rate, the interest rate that they're paying on their note. So that promissory note that they signed, they agreed to pay 8%, and that's what they're paying. So they owe 30,000. If I paid 30,000 for that note, I would be making 8%. I'm buying it at par. But if I buy it at $25,000, I'm buying it at a discount, just like we discounted our real estate, I'm buying it at a discount, my return is higher than 8%.
Got it.
You follow me?
Yes.
So I'm getting the same cash flow of the $30,000.
Because they still have to pay the 30. Got it.
Right. And I only paid 25.
Okay.
Yeah.
How does one make money though? I mean, I know you explained a little bit right there. If you owned a note and sold it. So let's go back to that first one. That was $100,000. And then you got it for, they owed they got it for $90,000.
You want to go the non-performing note?
Non-performing note.
Okay.
And they sell it to you for 50. So they're making money. I'm sorry. I taught music. I didn't teach math. So and notes meant something totally different when I was a music teacher, by the way.
Yeah, right.
But how does that person selling the non-performing note make money?
They're not.
Okay, thank you. And
they're not. So,
but they just want to dump it.
Exactly. Think about if that was a bank, and a bank gets a non-performing loan. What they used to do, banks, when somebody's non-performing, they would go towards foreclosure.
Correct. Okay.
Right? That all changed in the last crash, everybody. That completely changed by an act called the Dodd Frank Act. Okay. So that was passed after the last crash, and they wanted to hold lenders more responsible because remember the last crash, what was the problem?
The lenders.
Yeah, the crazy loans, the
hey,
pick-up payment loan,
yes.
100%. Woo,
Yep.
You need more money. Crazy loans, setting people up for failure, real estate prices going through the roof, and eventually, the people who got these sub-performing loans, no doc, stated income, it just all came tumbling down. Property values dropped in half. It was crazy. So back then, we were buying non-performing notes where people owed more than the house was worth.
Oh, okay.
But same thing. If somebody owed $200,000 on a $100,000 house, we'd still end up buying that thing for about $50,000. And then we could save, work it through. But moving forward, after that big crash, Congress came in and passed this Dodd Frank Act. And that completely changed how banks look at enforcing the mortgage. And that's really what a foreclosure is. It's an enforcement of the mortgage because essentially you said, I promise to pay you back in the note, and I'm going to sign this mortgage that pledges that house as collateral. If I don't pay you, you can take the property back, right? So all they're doing is enforcing those agreements that the borrower signed. So what the Dodd-Frank Act said was if a bank reaches 7% non-performing assets in their mortgage portfolio, triggers an immediate investigation. 7%, everybody. So imagine, I'll use small numbers. You have $1 million on your books of loans. Okay. You got 10 $100,000 loans and they're all non-performing and you're at that 7% range. If you get under penalty, which is highly likely at 7%, you as a banker are going to have to hold 10 times the 1 million in cash reserves that you cannot lend. You see, by your reaction,
wow.
That's the pressure. That's the pressure. Now add zeros, of course, to that for a bank. But imagine that you would have to put $10 million in cash reserves you're not making money on because of $1 million on that book. So your reaction, Jen, would be, get that off my books. Well, are you going to still go through foreclosure, which might take a year, paying attorneys and doing all this and delays? Or how about you bundle those notes up and you sell them next month at an auction? What would you do? You would sell it at auction.
Absolutely.
And that's what happens. They have auctions about 6 times a year. There's probably one this month. The last one was in February, was $10 billion worth of non-performing notes were sold, all in these big pools. So the banks take their loss that way instead of more of a loss because of the cash reserve plus them trying to foreclose. So if you look at foreclosures, everybody, I just did the research on this. The numbers just came out for May. They just came out the numbers for March just came out in May. Foreclosures are 0.3% of all mortgages. I could show you a chart that goes like this. I mean, foreclosures not the way banks go today. Yes, there's always going to be some foreclosures. I'm not saying that. But 0.3% versus at the peak of the last crash, 10%, huge difference. So what banks do is bundle up those non-performing loans. They sell them in bulk. They're done. Who buys those up? Big companies. big firms because you have to buy, a $500 million pool of notes. So let's say you buy, you're the big hedge fund, and you come in and you buy 2,000 notes. Do you think you were able to look at all the individual notes and everyone fit your criteria? That's exactly what you're, no, of course not, right? It doesn't make sense. They bought that pool because there were some things in there that they wanted, which is typically the high-end stuff. So they had to buy all of it to get the part they really wanted. They trim off the rest of that, sell it down the road to us. And that is the bread and butter of this industry, because that's where the best place to focus in this business is affordable housing. Affordable housing, whatever that means in your area, that's what we focus on, because that's where a small investor can come in and buy notes for $10,000 to $50,000. You want to go higher, you can go higher. You get too high, you're competing with the big firms. Why do that? Go where you can diversify and have good working class neighborhoods and buy them at a discount. So yes. Long way of coming back around to the person selling that non-performing loan has lost money, but that loss of money is less painful than what I just described to you, right? So that trickles down to us. So once we buy this, like a smart real estate investor, when you buy a piece of property, you already have figured out a couple exit strategies, right?
Right.
Of course, you never go in blind and go, okay, now that we own this, what should we do? You should have a plan, multiple plans in action. We do the same thing with the non-performing note. Now, this will blow you away, and I hope it's not too much for everybody, but because of the financial crisis that we had with COVID, they reinstated a program, which I knew was going to happen. I studied, and there was a program that came out in 2008. It eventually went away 5 years later. And I was telling my clients a year before it happened, I said, I'm telling you, this program's going to come back. Sure enough, it did. It's now called the Homeowner Financial Assistance Program. This is a government program. It was $10 billion was funded. Every state in the United States got some of that money, unequal distributions. So what that money is earmarked for, federal money to the state to help people stay in their homes. So people who are delinquent, people who are behind on payments, some people in those forbearance plans hadn't made a payment for 4 years. Now that was forgiven. But there's people who still, they're a year behind, they're 2 years behind on their payments, and it builds up what we call an arrearage account, all these missed payments, and that starts to grow. And this money then, if somebody's facing foreclosure, how do you stop foreclosure? It's pretty simple. Pay what you owe.
Right.
So they don't have the money to pay what you owe, so this money from the federal government to the state, they pay it. So let me go back to this, that example, $100,000 home, they owe $90,000. I bought the loan for $50,000. What if these people have an arrearage account of $25,000? In other words, they've missed payments for the last, let's say, 2 years,
okay,
and they owe $50,000. They're not making their payment partly because maybe they can't afford it, but maybe they're working again and can't afford it, but by making their payment, would that stop a lender from foreclosing? Not necessarily, because you can accelerate the loan and call it due now,
right,
foreclose. So they're kind of lost going, if I pay, they could still foreclose, so why throw good money after bad? I come along, I buy that note, and I educate them that this program's available. That's the problem with the government program, right? The people who need it don't know anything about it.
Right.
So I say, hey, here's this program. Here's how you apply. Here's the phone number. Here's the website. Here's the documentation. Go apply to this. They'll help you. And that state says, okay, our state maximum is $25,000. Okay. So we'll pay you, Kevin, note holder,
okay,
we'll pay you $25,000 to catch them up on their loan. So it takes 90 days, right? So I get the $25,000. Now they're motivated to stay and pay. I may or may not modify that loan. Now, if they can afford to pay it as is, I won't modify it. But if I need to modify it, I can still do that and make it work. Because remember, I invested $50,000 and 90 days later, I got back $25,000. I'm in this note for $25,000. And they're making payments on a $90,000 loan. Hello. You know what I mean? It's
exactly.
Just my $100,000 house. I mean, that's incredible. So that's one of the things that we're doing. We closed on about 5 or 6 of those over the last several weeks.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
I teach a lot. I teach nationally a lot of real estate investors all across the country. And I have noticed, and I think, Kevin, you just solved a huge mystery for me, because I like to pull pre-foreclosure lists. And in Raleigh, North Carolina, where I'm located, the average, when I was hitting them hard, hitting that list every 2 or 3 weeks, it averaged about 100 people on that list. And I'm sorry, let me back up a little bit. It's people who've received a pre-foreclosure notice in the last 6 months. Okay. So those are like my true distressed sellers. That's what I'm going after. I pulled that list the other day. Two people received a pre-foreclosure notice in the last 6 months. I was like, oh, this is wrong. So then I started pulling different areas, and I did get a good list. I pulled Denver, Colorado for some reason, and they still had a pretty decent list, but this is huge. So for me, teaching real estate investors on how to find deals, should they not be going after pre-foreclosures anymore because those are dwindling?
Well, yes. And what they should be doing is buying non-performing notes. There's less competition. You could even focus, for example, there's short foreclosure states and long foreclosure states. Georgia, short foreclosure. Missouri, 60 days, 90 days to foreclose. You could focus on non-performing notes on vacant properties or extremely lengthy non-performing notes in short foreclosure states. I mean, in Georgia, 90 days and less than $1,000, you can foreclose. And if you're buying things at 20, 30 cents on the dollar versus trying to beat people up down at the auction, where you're overpaying or trying to find these lead lists and just running into it, there is going to be a dwindling supply, because a lot of these non-performing loans with the banks, they will go into pre-foreclosure, right? Because everybody sees foreclosure. It doesn't mean it's been foreclosed upon.
Correct.
That's foreclosed. So when people see foreclosure, it means it's in the process.
Right.
But guess what happens? While it's in that process, the bank knows time to give up, bundle them up, sell them, they're gone. And they may vanish from your list as a result of that as well. And I'll tell you, the banks like it. I don't see this law changing at all, because the banks, their overhead in their loss mitigation department, which pre-last crash was huge, is down to nothing. Banks don't want to work with people anymore. It's like, why? It costs them time and money, and they would end up having a foreclosed property anyway and taking a loss. Why stretch it out when boom, done, 30 days, get it off the books. So it's another way that you could use the note business to simply acquire real estate. Now, having said that, I assure you, nobody, at least that I know, goes into this business going, man, I can't wait to kick people out of their houses and foreclose.
Right.
If it's a vacant home, go for it, man, target that. But if people are living in there, remember, there's more money to be made by helping these people stay. If it's not the government funds, like I just said, I can do a loan modification with them. Heck, I'm in the thing for $50,000. They owe $90,000. Let me move the money to the back. Let me lower their payments temporarily. There's a lot of things that I can do to get them paying, because just like a rehab property, if I can take a non-performing note that I bought cheap and get it reperforming again, just like buying real estate, fixing it up, I've enhanced value. And once I get that note performing, guess what I can do? I can sell my note to somebody else. Now I'm selling it as a performing note, which I'm going to make a profit on, versus buying a non-performing note.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I'm totally geeking out of this. And I know, I could keep going on. This is so amazing.
She's like, we're up to 30 minutes.
But so a lot of people get into the real estate investment business because they watch all the flipping shows and they're like, I want to flip houses. Is there an opportunity for someone who purchases, say, non-performing notes, that they may actually end up with the property because they can't pay the note? Then me as the investor, I'm going to get access to that property, and then I can actually flip it and then turn around and sell it. Is that correct?
Run me through that one more time. I think you went off track a little.
So if I'm buying a non-performing note and they can't catch up, and so they're still not paying on it, and then am I foreclosing on them because I don't have to worry about the 7% with the bank and all that stuff?
And your company is foreclosing. Now, a lot of times what we'll do is offer them a quitclaim deed, or offer them for them to surrender the property, typically done through a quitclaim deed. So look, I won't, you don't need a foreclosure on your record. You can't pay anyway. So just sign the property over to me. I'll forgive, that you owe me any debt. So you get the property back. So yeah, you're in that, just to keep our example the same, you're in that, $50,000 and you got $100,000 house. Now, or of course, if there's a lot of equity like that, their best thing is sell the house. Okay, sell the house and, $100,000 house, right? Yeah, sell the house and maybe I have to grant them a short payoff. Maybe they can only fire sale that house for $80,000. Okay, they owe me $90,000. And they say, hey, we have a cash buyer for $80,000. I would have to accept a short payoff.
Because you're still making $30,000.
Exactly. I'd still, yes, that was my point. I'm like, yeah, I'll do that. That's okay. If they sell it for $90,000, great. If they sell it for $100,000, great. I get my $90,000 and they walk away with equity. Or we have to go down the road of foreclosure. And I can tell you, as long as I've been doing this, I've never had to foreclose on somebody. There's always seems to be some kind of, I've threatened it because sometimes you got to wake people up. And believe me, people get into habits. And when somebody has a habit of not making mortgage payments for 2-3 years, they like to keep it that way. So you got to wake them up. Yeah, you got to wake them up, and send a little letter from an attorney just saying, hey, if we don't hear from you, we have no choice but to go down this road, and so we've possibly had to file the pre-foreclosure documents, the list pendings or the notice of default and start that road. But a lot of times they'll finally wake up and, we can come to some kind of resolution. But that's what I mean. We have 3-4 outs in every property, and any out, when you structure these the right way and you buy the right way, whichever 4 ways it works out, I'm making money either way. It's just how much and the time frame.
And less headaches. I mean,
you're not making the phone calls either. As a note investor, you outsource that. Okay, we have companies that do all that. I'm not, nobody gets into this to call, hey, you're late on your payment. We don't do that. We have companies that do that for a whopping $30 a month. Okay, a servicing company collects the payments. If it's non-performing, they're doing workouts. They're sending the letters. They're making the phone calls. They're doing all that. All I have to do is tell them, okay, so where are we at? Well, they're not returning calls. They're not doing this. They're not doing that. Okay, go ahead and get your attorney. The servicing companies, workout companies have attorneys. Just say, have them file the paperwork for foreclosure. Send a demand letter first. See if that rattles them. If not, file the foreclosure. So you're not doing any of that other than, just giving direction.
Okay, so how do I finance buying that note for $50,000? Okay,
that's trickier. Now, you could partner.
And this is my last question, by the way, because I will keep going. So I'm prepping
you. This is allowable for IRAs and 401ks that are self-directed. So a lot of, people will do that. That one got you good. You have your own money, lines of credit, so the obvious things, just like buying real estate, how do you come up with, the money for that? Most of the investors that I have pay cash for that. But here's the thing. So some of you are going, that's great, but I don't have the 50 grand.
Right.
Here's how I started the business. I didn't have the money either 30 years ago, but I had the knowledge, and I put forth the effort. And I did something that most of your listeners in real estate investing have heard of called wholesaling. You go out, you find a property, you can't buy it, you're not ready to take it on, but you know somebody who can, and you make a fee, right? Can you do the same thing with notes? You sure can.
And this is all audio for my listeners, but that was a mind-blowing experience right there. So you can get something good. So you go to the auction. Is it like an online auction? How do you find these non-performing? By the way, we want to buy non-performing notes, correct?
You want to? No, not necessarily.
Oh my goodness.
It depends how active you want to be, how passive you want to be, how much capital that you're looking for. So when I take on a new client, that's where we start. What of all of this array of opportunities, because there's a way to make passive cash flow right away. There's ways to make lump sum. There's this government. There's all kinds of things. And I try to work with people to say, what's best for you? And at least to start with, let's get you in something, because you don't want to, just try everything all at once. You'll just be spinning your wheels. So you narrow it down. Some people are attracted to not performing, some performing. So it really depends on the individual. But as far as wholesaling or whatever, it all works the same way. Note to note, you're going to pay more more towards the balance of the loan on a performing note than non-performing note, obviously, because you're buying a working product. But when you can buy a performing note that somebody's been in the house, like I said before, for 2, 5, 10 years, making payments, establishing equity, you buy that note, servicing company now, the money's coming in, and now you buy it, servicing company starts sending it to you now. And as long as they keep paying, there's nothing, you don't do anything. There's nothing for you to do. The servicing company takes their fee out. They hold escrow if there's escrow in it, and then they just send the rest of the money into your account.
So this is great for someone who's maybe just starting in real estate, not ready to quit their W-2 yet. They have a lot going on in their self-directed IRA. They can take the money from their self-directed IRA, buy a couple notes, have money start coming in and building capital to then go buy more properties to maybe flip down the road, etc.
Yeah,
or
and these notes
holds.
you can find these online. You can find these, there's various sources that sell these notes. And if somebody's looking to wholesale, one of the companies that I was working with 30 years ago, they're still around today. They're backed by a bank, and they buy $3 to $9 million a month in notes every single month. And so they've got the money. So that's always a big part of the question. You can find a deal. Where do I find the money? Well, you can go to FNAC, FNAC, First National Acceptance Company. They have the money. They're backed by a bank and everything else. They buy $3 to $9 million. So you got their money there. Find out what kind of notes they're looking for and then go find them. How do you make money? Well, you find a deal. You fill out literally a one-page form. What's the house worth? What was the mortgage for? How many payments have they made? How many payments are remaining? What's the interest rate? Just the basic stuff. You send that one-page form over to FNAC. FNAC says we'll pay $80,000 for it. You go back to your person and say we'll give you $70,000 for it. They say yes. They pay 80, you get 10, they get 70.
Kevin, this is awesome.
That's how I started.
This is awesome. And I actually get to meet you in person. You're going to be speaking at the Re-Up conference. My good friends, Christy and Noah Harris in Columbia, South Carolina. I've attended all of their Re-Up so far. I spoke at the first 3. This one I'm just going to attend because there's badasses like you speaking at this event that I can't wait to hear even more about this. So you all can hear him at that event. It is July 28th and 29th, is it?
That sounds right, yeah.
Or 29th and 30th, I think. I don't know. Check it out. Go to reupmeetup.com and you definitely want to sign up. I'll be there. We can hang out at the bar after all the speakers. But Kevin, this has been fantastic. I know you have a podcast that is amazing. I've seen some of the people you've been interviewing, and you also have a book, Real Estate Without Renters. How do people find you to learn more from you?
Sure. You can Google me, of course. I'm all over there. I've got a YouTube channel, the podcast. You can just go to realestatewithout.renters.com. If you're interested in my book, just go to Amazon and it's the same title, realestatewithout.renters.com. It's that because we own the cash flow, right? So if I own a note on somebody's property, don't call me about the toilet, the roof, the this and that. I'm the bank. That's what you are in this business. I'm the bank. So, just make your payments to me. I don't own the property. You do, so that's where the without tenants comes in. Let's see. I do some things on the other social media and such, but I guess YouTube, the book, my website, again, just Real Estate Without Renters, and that's it. Yeah, I'm not hard to find.
Well, I'm just glad someone is going to be speaking at this event who's older than me, because if you started at 85, I know you're a little bit older than me. So
I just turned 60. I
just turned 50.
Did you just turn the big 60? Yeah.
When was your birthday?
May 30th.
I'm June 1st. That is so funny. All right. Small world. Kevin, this has been fantastic. I'm literally like, we need to keep this to 30 minutes and we're already like 44 minutes and I don't care because this is so good. But really quick, the second part of the podcast is what makes Kevin Shortle. And by the way, if you look him up, it's Shortle.
Thank you. Yeah.
So check him out. But the second part of the podcast is what makes you a badass, which clearly you are. And I use the acronym BADASS. So the first letter is B for book. What's a book that's made a huge difference in your life?
Think and Grow Rich, I think, was one of the first ones. It's probably a common one that you hear, but Great book, How to Win Friends and Influence People is another good one. So those probably at the same time. But if I had to pick one of the two, I'd say that one.
I have yet to read how to make
Win
friends.
Win friends and influence people.
Yeah, I've yet to read that. It's been sitting on my bookshelf forever.
I was going to say it's an old classic. Yeah.
I know. I need to get on it. All right. The first A in badass is advice. What's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
I think mentorship has really changed some things, and mentorship's a different thing. And I read what you have on your website too, with the true definition of a mastermind. I stick, again, kind of a purist on that. So when I'm working with clients, and what's really helped them is I'm right there with them every step of the way. We're on Zoom together, we're reviewing deals, we're looking at documents, and that's irreplaceable, because if you just tell somebody, the old saying, they forget. You teach somebody and they learn. You involve somebody and they get it. They're a part of it. So that's where the mentorship comes in, and that either through partnerships or through mentorship, I think is just smart. Don't make your own mistakes. Learn from others. It's quicker.
And by you being my mentor about notes, I can now pass on why there's only 2 pre-foreclosures showing up, because now I know. So thank you for sharing that with me. All right. The D in badass is for drive. What drives Kevin to be successful?
Enjoying what you do, I think, is a big part of it. And I mean, I've been doing this for 30 years, and I hope it comes through. I mean, I'm passionate about it. I think it's a great thing for investors to be and to consider. It's a part of real estate. I look at it as the other side of the same coin. If you're in real estate, you should know the best in real estate and the best with real estate finance. You do that, you're a complete investor. And so the drive for that is just personal passion about something. And I don't know, when you could become an expert in something and you have a niche, it's fun. You get the following on that, and of course, you have family that you do all this stuff for too. Sure.
I love that. All right. The second A in badass is for aspiration. I'm a big goal setter. So what is a goal you are currently working on?
What I just started implementing, I've been asked a long time, is I've got people who want to partner with me on things. And I've resisted that for a number of reasons in the past. But I'm going to launch that. I just started, and going to start to partner with people on deals. And I think that brings mentorship to a different level, because now not only was I involved in getting you into a deal, I'm in the deal with you. So, you can rest assured if something goes wrong or something comes up in the deal, I'm highly motivated. I'm in it with you to work on that. So that's my next big move for what I do.
Wow. Because I hate partnering. I hate sharing my profits. So I am impressed that you're doing that. And I bet that makes people want to work with you even more, because you have skin in the game as well. So I love that. Very good, Kevin.
Yeah, but I make them work. They have to,
good.
And it's not like I don't spoon feed them deals. I'll teach you how to do it. You find the deal. If I like it, if I'll structure a partnership with you, and we'll do it that way. Wonderful. Otherwise, you don't learn. Yeah.
And having just turned 50, I'm getting tired. So this whole note thing, I'm super excited about. I'm getting ready to, as soon as we sign off, I'm going on Amazon and getting this book so that you can sign it when I see you in July.
Excellent.
Yes. All right. The first S in badass is for systems. What systems do you have in place to help you achieve success?
What I've done, which I don't think anybody else in our industry has done, is I don't like to waste time. So when I look at notes, I have a first level of due diligence that literally takes me minutes. And if it doesn't pass that test, move it on. Move it on. I've seen too many investors, well, maybe this, no, move on. We get too much inventory. If it doesn't fit this first test, done, and then I go to the next layer of due diligence. And my goal at that next level is, I tell my clients all the time, I want to know more about this note than the note seller knows. And a lot of times that becomes the truth. And so I research it. And I want that, because when I ask that seller questions, I already know a lot. It's like an attorney, I already know the answer and what they should be giving me back on stuff. And then the final is getting the documentation from them and, just verifying everything that I believe is in case there. So yeah, you have to have a systematic approach to that. So I do apply that same system, whether it's performing, non-performing, sub-performing, whatever it is. And it just makes you much more efficient, much more targeted So that I would say that's kind of my own system that I built over time.
And then you pass it off to that $30 a month company that's going to be collecting payments for you and doing all the communications, correct?
Yeah. Yeah.
This is heavenly. All right. To wrap this up, as much as I hate to leave you, Kevin, because I'm really enjoying this, the final S in badass is success. What does success mean to Kevin Shortle?
The ability to do what you want to do when you want to do it with the attitude to enjoy it.
Oh, I like, because normally people say with who I want to do it with. Yep. I love that, with the attitude. I love that. Kevin.
I heard that a long time ago. It's always stuck with me. I said that on the podcast that I did with Michael, and said the same thing. He goes, "Oh, I'm writing that one down."
Say it one more time. Say it one more time. I love it.
The ability to do what you want to do when you want to do it with the attitude to enjoy it.
Kevin, this has been
passive income.
I'm telling you.
Yeah.
I love me some mailbox money, so I'm definitely going to have to dig deeper into this. Kevin, it has been such a pleasure having you on the show today. And one more time, how can people find you online? KevinShortle.com or realestatewithoutrenters.com. And of course, you can always check out my book. I don't know, it's like $20 or something like that on Amazon, #1 bestseller. So that's a great introduction. It's a really good book. And check out my podcast. Guess what the name is? Real Estate Without Renters. I was just going to say, give us a shout out for that.
Or Google me, or just go to YouTube and type in my name. You'll find my channel there as well.
And it's a great podcast. I definitely checked it out myself. So Kevin, thank you again for being on the show today.
You are most welcome. Thank you.
And thank you for listening. We will catch you on the next episode. Now go out there and share your badassery. And don't forget, make it a great day. Take care. Bye-bye. Whoop, whoop.
Thank you for listening to RAIN, the Real Estate Investor Growth Network. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform so you never miss an episode. If you need more badassery, you can follow Jen Josie by visiting therealjenjosie.com or become a member of RAIN by registering on rainmastermind.com.